I'd like to start off firstly by just going on to agenda item 1, which is a notice of recording and webcast. Just to advise members note that the meeting will be webcast for live or subsequent broadcast by the council's meeting YouTube site, and that those of the press or public may record or take photographs except where there are any confidential or exempt items. Just another note, it's not on the agenda, but just to advise members who are in attendance physically today that if you are moving around the room, then please do put your masks on. And obviously I know that we've spaced out just to ensure that we're all safe here today. Thank you. And item 2, I've got apologies from Councillor Atwell and Councillor Straker-Wells. Do we have any other apologies? No? Okay. And the next item is just the appointment of the committee. Just to formally note that one, I'm the chair of the committee, and also just to formally elect Councillor Atwell as the deputy chair if I'm absent for the period ending of the annual meeting of the council in 2022. As we met informally, the election was already done, but just this is the first time we're meeting formally, so it's just for members to note that through. Is that agreed? Yeah, thank you. Item 4, declarations of interest. None. Okay, item 5, just to note the terms of reference for the committee. Agreed? Good. Thank you. And item 6, this is very fast. Item 6, the action notes, to confirm the notes of the 7th of April meeting and note the action notes of the 28th of July meeting. Can I get agreement from members for that? Yeah. Brilliant, thank you. And then now, I don't think the next 2 agenda items are going to be quite as fast as the ones we previously had. So I'd like to welcome Maria Gavin, who's the AD for Quality and Improvement from Adult Social Care, to give us a presentation on the Adult Social Care Directorate. And then, as always, members, if you've got any questions, please do indicate, and then I'll take them at the end. And then if you guys have asked questions that I wanted to ask, then I won't ask them, but otherwise I'll go to the end. But I'll hand over to Maria. I think we've got a presentation as well. Up and running? Brilliant. And I know that you're aware already that there might be a bit of a couple of second lag in getting it up on the screen, just in case you're worried that it's not working, but it is. Okay. I'll hand over to Maria. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me along to committee this afternoon to update on how adult social care is engaging around the Commonwealth Games and making sure the citizens we work with get the most from the Games. So what I'm going to give a quick overview of today is our Adult Social Care Engagement Group, some of the work we're doing to support accessibility of both the games at the pre-games, games and post-games stage, the Adult Social Care Reach Network, some of the activity we're doing to engage in cultural and community events, volunteering and employment, and how we're looking more generally to use the games as a springboard to enhance the health and well-being of adult social care users. Quick word on the Queen's Baton Relay, and again, how we're working with wider partners as part of that, helping to get the city games ready. So, in adult social care, probably similar to children's, we're not delivering any of the big infrastructure projects for the games, so we're not building a road or housing or a stadium, but we see ourselves as being key in that link to vulnerable adults in the city to make sure that all adults that we work with and come into contact with pick up on our enthusiasm for the games and how we're engaging and making them aware of the opportunities and events associated with it. So we have a group that meets very regularly. We'll be moving to fortnightly of adult social care staff who link into our third sector organisations, our providers and our service users and carers to try and raise that awareness, enthusiasm and engagement in all aspects of the games and the games legacy. We're very keen that we support the corporate priority of delivering against every resident gaining the maximum from the games. And we're really keen to support that sharing of ideas and opportunities that enable our users to get engaged at a local community level in whatever's taking place. One of the key aspects we're promoting in adult social care is accessibility. I'm sure it will come up on a moment. So we sit as one of a number of organisations on the Accessibility Forum on the organising committee. So most of the groups on that committee are voluntary organisations who work particularly to promote access for people that they work with in the community. So Sense, Mencap, Mind, number of organisations that the OC pulls together, and we sit on that group as part of adult social care and council representation. We're very keen to promote accessibility in everything the OC is involved in. So for example, the work the organising committee have been leading from the OC side around volunteering or jobs or working in partnership with the council, that forum that we sit on helps to make sure there's a sense check, particularly from the voluntary sector representatives, of how to ensure that opportunities are mindful that people applying to be volunteers might have autism or may not be able to access the regular e-forms applications or might struggle to get to the library for interviews. Because we're really keen to promote that the volunteering and jobs opportunities and the people who are successful in those opportunities represent all communities in Birmingham, particularly our communities that we support in adult social care, and those who are often furthest from the job market or from opportunities because of a range of factors which makes them more vulnerable or more isolated. We also promote both with the OC, but also with the council in the work and the work we do as a directorate, ensuring that venues, both the ones that are being developed for the games and post-games, have built into that legacy of being accessible. So one of the key areas we are promoting is changing places toilets, making sure that there's awareness of the level of facilities that's required to ensure that families or carers or users who have sort of more profound disabilities are, if we could go backward, are able to access the games. And at the moment, we're just pulling together the bid for the current Changing Places local authority grant, again to see how we can look at increasing the number of changing places in the city as part of our legacy, but also as part of the games with a particular focus on venues for the games that don't have that level of accessibility. So, for example, looking at can we work with the committee and the games organisers to get access to mobile facilities. You can get mobile changing place facilities, which would mean that for events being held in areas like the parks, Cannon or Sutton Park, that you can have mobile facilities. But also we've been involved in the work with the train station redevelopment and with the redevelopment of Alexandra Stadium, and we're working as well with Edgbaston Cricket Ground, again, to raise that awareness. Councils don't hold the funding themselves to build these things, but really we're advocating and bidding for grants where we can to make that opportunity as accessible as possible. Access Able is one of the organisations who collect information at an extremely detailed level on accessibility to venues and wayfinding. So if you come in at Perry Park or you come in at New Street, if you're a person with autism or if you have a particular disability or sensory impairments, what are the things that you need to know that make the difference between you being able to engage in that activity or to attend the games as a visitor or to use the facilities post-games? What do you need to know? What do you need to know about door widths, about lifts, about how the road layout is? And an organisation called Access Able are a national charity that help pull together that sort of information. So we're working with them again directly, specifically around the games, to make sure that that information on enabling people with access requirements to actually attend the sites both during and post games is something that we're promoting, and in fact we'll fund that directly because there doesn't seem to be another route for that. Thank you. Sorry. So moving on to our reach group, as I said, we're really keen that the organisations and individuals we work with in adult social care are aware of the opportunities and that we support those individuals and networks to access those opportunities. So we have a reach group, which is just like a mailing group of 400 organisations that come from our charities and voluntary sector organisations that work with our neighbourhood networks, groups that support people with disabilities, our pure employment organisations. So in adult social care, we have European funding for the Pure project, which looks to work with people furthest from the jobs market to help support them into employment. So we have organisations within the Pure project, our parents and carers organisations in preparation for adulthood, our day centres and community groups, and also our migration forums. So we have a network of those organisations where we use that network to push information out, but also as well as enabling us to share information quickly and directly, it means that we can set up things like webinars at the moment or signpost people to the opportunities that exist, particularly around young people and in employment. So we use that really to try and help promote and use our channels to make sure that we are also pushing out key messages to reach those individuals and groups. Thank you. So yeah, with volunteering, and I think the volunteering leads ran 3 sessions or 4 sessions, webinars for us, and there was access to the sessions for young people, so that organisations working with people who are further away from the job market could go and actually get face-to-face advice and support on how to do that. And similar to children's, I think we had an access code, which meant that users who were applying from more vulnerable groups that were being targeted for the opportunities were able to be identified to make sure that their applications were given due consideration. In terms of engaging and supporting the delivery of the wider cultural and community programmes, we have an officer seconded to adult social care and culture. That's been in place for some time and was part of our push with locality-based neighbourhood networks to use arts and culture in the strongest way we can to promote the well-being, cohesion and inclusion of communities and those we work with. And particularly promoting opportunities for adult social care units to experience and join in things like the 6-month cultural festival, and some of the other, like the critical mass event, which is aimed at people under 30. So again, looking to be inclusive of people with disabilities, people with a range of needs. So working with culture to make sure that we're using our combined networks to support organisations, reach individuals and make them aware of those opportunities and give them a bit of extra help to access that. Thank you. So as I said, 2 events most recently that come to the mind that we're working with our culture leads on are Critical Mass, which is the dance groups that are being brought together for the large-scale events, including opening, closing ceremonies and a range of other sort of really high-profile, exciting events aimed at getting young people engaged, involved and being as inclusive as possible. So we're promoting and working with culture on that. And again, the wider cultural programme set to run really in the 6 months before the Games. And we want our local neighbourhood organisations to be bidding for grants to feel part of the Games, to really be able to get those benefits and use that to help strengthen their role in the community and that engagement. We're also looking to make sure that our own adult social care users we work with directly are able to get the maximum benefit, and using the games really as the springboard to that wider health and wellbeing agenda. Many adult social care users were subject to shielding or really impacted by restrictions, particularly as well because of the associated risk factors. And we've noticed, particularly, say, with our learning disabilities users, all our day centres were closed for a period, reopened partly now, but really many carers have noticed a sort of a really negative impact on people's physical and mental well-being as a result of lockdown. So the games is one of those levers that we're looking to use, and linking with places like Edgbaston. We've got some good links, and we're looking to expand that to work with some of the big venues to actually get them engaged and supporting our users through their community programmes. So, for example, Edgbaston Cricket Ground in the past, firstly, they're very helpful at, you want to organise for groups of users to go and tour facilities and get a feel and an enthusiasm for sport, but also they're working with us to look at how we can maybe do table cricket or cricket within our day centres, the day centre league, so that we're actually using the games and the links with the organisations to help promote that wider health and wellbeing of those citizens we work directly with. Thank you. I think I probably mentioned a bit about jobs and volunteering and how we've worked through our network to try and promote that in the OC with our own reach groups and by hosting the webinars. And there are good links now between our employment projects, preparation for adult employment projects, and that wider work that's being run by the West Midlands Skills and Jobs Academy to make sure those users are also given the opportunity for those jobs and volunteering. We're keen as well to use, if we can, activities like the Queen's Baton Relay, again as a springboard for more community engagement and locality-based events, whether that's local street parties for our users of our services, or to engage in those wider opportunities, because we've put forward all of our centres, as well as key organisations around neighbourhood networks, preparation for adulthood, refugee asylum, young carers. So a number of those organisations were suggested by the staff and leads who work with them for us to put forward as sites for the Queen's Baton Relay. So we don't know if we'll be successful in those, but again, we're really keen to try and make that feeling that the Games is accessible to everyone in the city as wide as we can, and using whatever route we can, Queen's Baton Relay, cultural programme, grants, jobs, volunteering, to really try and build that legacy and the skills that people can get into our future of adult social care. Last but not least, a word on some of the wider partnerships and getting games ready. And we're very vigilant for any opportunities and work with the Council Commonwealth Games leads and the OC leads to identify any opportunities where our adult social care users or communities might be able to benefit from activity around the Games. So, for example, we've linked with the Canal and Rivers Trust through the Beneficial Activities Workstream of the Autism and ADHD Partnership Board, because the Canal and Rivers Trust are seeking volunteers to work with them from all groups to help, this is obviously focused around the canals and rivers. And again, we've had some similar inquiries about cycling. There are cycling schemes for people with disabilities run by MenCap. And again, trying to link any of the work that's happening in the city as we look to get games ready. And the work the voluntary sector are doing to include our users. So we're very vigilant and always very, very happy to hear about any opportunities or ideas. We'll follow them up and try and work to get our users involved. So that was really what I wanted to cover today. I'm conscious I've spoken for ages. So if I stop now, I'll be delighted to take any questions.
Thank you, Maria, for your detailed presentation. I'm just going to pause for a moment to see if I've got any indication for questions from members. And if they're still thinking of their questions, then I'm more than happy to give you a list of questions that I do have, not for myself, but on behalf of Councillor Straker Wells, who unfortunately had a diary clash, so isn't able to be here. But I know he was really keen to, one, hear your presentation, so I'm sure he'll be watching back later when he gets a chance. And I did say to him, I'm more than happy to take some of his questions and email them through. Some of them you've already touched on with regard, within your presentation, but I'll ask the list that he's given me, just so that maybe you can just give us a bit more detail if you think it's appropriate. So I'll just go through this. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5.
Okay. So I need a pen.
Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. I'll pause. I'll wait for you to just sort of indicate like that, then I'll just sort of stop. But the first one is well, I'll pretend I'm Martin for a moment. He said, it would be great if vulnerable adults who are Commonwealth citizens can be an integral part of these events. How aware are vulnerable adults about the games and artistic events in their communities? How much interest have they shown so far? How can vulnerable adults be more involved in these events? I can pause. What impact can the games have on their health and well-being? And how can the most disadvantaged be enabled to participate? That's all of them. Yeah. So I'll leave it to you now to answer them either all in one go or individually, however you see fit.
I'm hoping that some of the information we've given in the presentation will talk to some of those questions, really. And it's particularly through our reach networks, through our links with the cultural organisations and through our neighbourhood networks, which are our neighbourhood services that operate with voluntary and community organisations in the 10 localities across the city. So we kind of work down through BDSC and our locality leads to help ensure we get that reach on the ground at a locality level. So it's really through, I think there's no one way to do that. We're looking all the time at using as many channels as we can, direct people, community organisations, whatever routes are available to us, really, to publicise and make sure there is that awareness of what's out there and how to access it.
I'll just ask a couple of the ones that are a bit different. So what impact can the games have on their health and well-being? What impact do you think that it could have on their health and well-being? Obviously, during the run-up to the games and then whilst the games are happening as well. How, I know you touched on the health and well-being slide, that having had COVID and a lot of them are shielding, it has had negative impact. But if you can maybe touch on what sort of impact you think the games can have on their health and well-being.
Improving people, the health and well-being of adults in the city, particularly vulnerable adults who've been particularly affected, as many of us, by COVID. It's improving their health and well-being is part of our ongoing work, and really the games is a really good opportunity to use as a springboard to enhance that. So we're finding the games gives us sort of like a lever into some of the venues, and many of those venues and organisations are more focused on working with communities in the run-up to the games. So we're looking to use where we can that health and well-being, pushing that through that sort of springboard that the games gives us. We're also very interested to work, obviously Public Health are doing more of a public health and well-being campaign, and we work very closely with Public Health. So again, as those ideas and opportunities arise, we'll be looking to make sure that our own services that work with service users are absolutely building that into their core activity. So as we move into the games, ideas like, the tabletop or wheelchair cricket and those sorts of things to build a programme of activity for which the games and the link to Commonwealth is a really good springboard. So it's part of what we're doing anyway, but we're really looking to use the opportunities the games gives to get some impetus. We're due to be given a small amount of funding from the council as part of its council funding, again to help us really give that some drive, which will be really beneficial.
Oh, that sounds positive. And the only sort of question, I know you've mentioned a lot about how aware they are and all the work that's been done to raise awareness, and I think that's brilliant so far. The only other one from Martin's questions is how much interest have sort of the service users within adult social care shown so far? So how much interest have they shown, given obviously all the awareness that you have been raising?
Yeah, I think there's really, when we've run the webinars, for example, about the volunteering opportunities, we've had really good engagement of, say, 20 to 40 organisations on each webinar. So we feel that we're getting some really good connections with our communities there. A lot of the connection is one-to-one via workers and staff. But I think it's fair to say there is quite a level of excitement. Although I think in some of our service areas, like our day centres, are still working under restricted COVID conditions, a bit like here today. So it's kind of that balance of having to adapt things to the restrictions and requirements to keep very vulnerable people safe, and particularly because COVID rates and hospital rates are putting us under a lot of pressure at the moment again. But trying to make sure we promote that engagement. So, for example, during COVID, we had to move a lot of activity to webinar-based or online-based, and really it's about how we use that combined with face-to-face to continue to promote that engagement and awareness. But if people have any ideas or suggestions or other ways we can work or share information and reach people, we'd be really glad to get involved.
Thank you. You sound like you've done lots of work already to try and get information out. A lot of your presentation covered that, so it does sound quite positive. I'm just going to pause for a moment to see if there are any questions from members before I ask you. I think two more that are my own questions.
Of course.
If I've got any other indications from members, if not, I'll go ahead. Okay. On one of your slides, you said you mentioned the Adult Social Care Reach group. And it said that there's a contact list of around 400 groups or individual members as part of that. I was just wondering whether whether you've done, or whether somebody's done a sort of mapping exercise to see geographically if every ward in the city is part of that, whether that's individuals involved or whether that's a group, it's a day centre or something like that. I'm just wondering in terms of, it may be the case that you don't know the answer right now. I understand that as well. But I was just wondering, because obviously it sounds like there's a good reach of people who can easily be informed and engaged. But I was just wondering if there's any sort of pockets of the city that aren't within that, and maybe between now and games, just to maybe some extra work will be done. Or you might come back and say, actually, every single ward is covered. But if you don't have the answer at hand, I understand. But it's just, you can send it through later if that is the case.
We know we're covered at a locality level because we have our 10 neighbourhood networks and we work with them in all the localities, but I don't know at a ward level. I would have to come back to council.
That's fine. I did think that might be the case, but you can send that through later on. Oh, yes. So this is a question that I ask, or one of our members, we usually ask whenever we've got a director in front of us at the committee. So I'll ask you as well. I can see that obviously a lot of work has been done to share information and inform those within adult social care of the games, how they can be involved and that sort of thing. But can you tell us a little bit more about legacy aspects that you are hoping to achieve post games, and how maybe some of the run up to the games and during the games period, you think that within adult social care that you're already looking to have something post games that we and then obviously adult social care service users have benefited from having the games afterwards. So a bit more on legacy.
Legacy is really our focus. The games themselves, of course, are very important and a great opportunity for Birmingham to show itself as the marvellous and fantastic city it is. But our focus is really on legacy. It's how do we use the games to strengthen our community organisations. So, for example, we've got a good network of community organisations, but we have lots of new little organisations spring up in COVID that we're trying to keep going. And so really we're looking at all the opportunities for funding to support them, to encourage them to become more sustainable, and for our existing organisations to think about, well, how do you work with your communities to make the games part of that legacy? So to ensure that some of that financial legacy is going into the grassroots organisation to help their sustainability and delivery. We're particularly focused on some of the practical things around accessibility. Like I said, trying to make sure that places are building in changing places, toilets for the longer term, getting that wayfinding map so that after the games, once the overlay is lifted, for example, with Last Access able to do games access to facilities during the games for the Birmingham facilities, but also to do it once the overlay is gone, because it will be quite different accessing some of the facilities. Car parking will be different for people with disabilities. Routes and wayfinding might be shaped after the games in a different way. So we're really focused on both during but also post games. And as I say, for that health and well-being and some of those wider priorities for adult social care, it's really about using the games as an opportunity and a springboard towards that longer term work. We very much see the engagement in the pre-games cultural programmes, the games and the post-games, all as part of that piece of work. Jobs and skills and volunteering. We want people to get access to the training and to the skills. Yes, they might be a volunteer during the games, but we're interested that they acquire those skills from the fantastic opportunities on offer, and that we keep them as volunteers afterwards. So part of it has also been thinking about how do you work. We're part of the volunteering group on the council and are very keen to make sure that those people who come forward in the games are maintained as volunteers in the city post games.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Thank you. I don't have any other questions. Just to comment at the end, it was really positive to hear about, you mentioned something in terms of the relationship with Edgbaston Cricket and maybe looking at things like a day centre league and those kind of projects. I just thought it was brilliant that, you know, other sort of assets that we've got in the city are getting involved in your working in partnership with them to try and get the most benefits during and after hopefully games. So I just thought that I'd mention that. I think it's great. Thank you so much for your presentation and for answering the questions. I think it's great, and I'm glad that there's some sense of excitement within the directorate, and it's been really good to hear about obviously the run up and also the answer you've given around legacy as well. So thank you again. Thank you. We can move on to the next agenda item. And thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can leave. Thank you. We won't hold you to the end of the meeting. More than happy for you to leave now.
No, thank you. And I'm conscious we're trying to minimise still all the people contact and people in room. No. So thank you. Nice to see you again.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the next agenda item now. It's item 8, and we've got the Children's Trust in attendance. I believe I've got Jake Shaw, the head of service, and is nodding. So you're Jake Shaw, rights and participation in corporate parenting, and then that leaves you as Alex Hillman, corporate parenting and partnership coordinator. Same again. I'll hand over to you to give us a presentation, and then we'll go through any questions that members have. And I'll leave it to you guys to decide who's doing which bit of your presentation. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So obviously, you know who we both are now, so that's helpful with that introduction. If we sort of move on to the next slide, it's probably quite useful to give like the title of our programme, which is Unlocking the Game. So I think there's something in that title. I think for us, we were really keen that we had a programme that reached out to some of our more vulnerable children, young people that we work with, and some of those children that we don't work with as well. So it's about being a really inclusive opportunity for our children and people across the city to have some sort of understanding around games and to get some opportunities out of this as well. I think we heard from our colleague go around the legacy. I think we're really keen that any programme that we have in the city isn't just like while games are here, we wanted to have some sustainability afterwards. So a lot of our opportunities that we're creating, we're hoping that these are opportunities that many people might develop interest in, skills in, training, jobs in, and this is something for their future as well, as well as impacting our families. So The first slide's got a picture of one of our recent events over the summer, which had some Commonwealth Games themes. I'm not quite sure karting is a Commonwealth Games sport, but certainly other things that we did during the 4 weeks that program did had some sort of Commonwealth themes to it, which was great. I think you can see at the back there's our sort of lead member, the Children and Families Councillor, Sharon Thompson. Alex is also in photo at the back, but I think, it's just useful to sort of bring this to life a little bit, that already we've started programs and started projects in our local community, and that's getting support already from council and councillors, which is great. Just to say that the funding came about because we were actually approached by the organising community. We're really keen that some of their programme actually had impact on some of the most vulnerable children and people in the city. So for us, it's a real exciting opportunity to connect those dots up and to make sure that the Commonwealth isn't just for a few, it's for the majority of our children and people, and that no one should miss out. It's funded obviously by the organisation, but also the trust of giving funding to that programme as well, and also giving time in terms of quite a lot of Alex's time is dedicated to the Commonwealth Games. Also myself and other members of our team, we're really behind it actually as a trust, and we're really keen that we sort of promote opportunities far and wide across the city. If I move on to the next slide, it just gives a bit of background really, the next slide, just in terms of like how many sort of children and people and families we're wanting to reach. In the summer just gone, we've already reached that number in just 4 weeks of activity. So it shows that actually, we probably undersold ourselves slightly in that initial 5,000, but I think we have to start somewhere. But it just shows actually through working with our partners, our communities, we can do quite a lot actually in this space to really reach out to children and people across the city. Alex will go into a bit more detail on what some of those sort of programs were. We're focused in terms of who the programme is tailored towards. Obviously, our children in care and care is a key group that we want to reach out to, but there's also other key sort of groups within Children's Trust. So it might be children with disabilities, some unaccompanied asylum seeking children, might be children affected by serious youth violence and gangs, children impacted by criminal sexual exploitation, a whole range of children and people that might be impacted in ways or have different sort of vulnerabilities. So it's not purely, it's just to be quite clear, I think some of the comms that's gone out sort of projected more around children and care leavers, but actually it's much wider than that. So I think it's really important for you all to sort of understand that really truly. And then we'll go on to the next one. In terms of the how, I've talked a little bit already, but I think we're keen that the programme helps to improve lives of children in the city. So we're really keen that we work on programmes that can help with training opportunities, with volunteer opportunities, can help young people access activities that they might not have known about, not might have tried before, give young people tasters, give young people an idea about where they can access community with all like community programmes in their local community, local sports groups and other groups. And again, when we think about Commonwealth Games, we always think about sport and achievement in that area. But I think underneath that for us, it's much wider than that. So some of our programme focus on music, art, culture stuff as well. So it's not just if someone's sporting, this is a programme for them. Actually, we know that there's lots of things that we can tap into that young people might have an interest in. Not everybody is sporty or wants to run 100 metres. I don't struggle myself. So, it's that bit of actually we want this to be like an inclusive games. And so it's there are lots of opportunities within this. Alex will probably talk more around the volunteer offer. But again, we know that volunteering can have a massive impact on a young person, a young adult's life. It can bring them into a peer network, it can give them skills that are really useful for employment, it can give them a real sense of self-esteem, achievement when people do volunteer. From previous games where people are giving feedback, there's a real sense of community, there's a real sense of almost family, and some of our young people miss out on that. So it helps for some of our young people to really have a really positive experience, but also help to grow and develop themselves as individuals. The next slide's about the reach now. I've sort of talked about that a little bit. I'll hand over after I mentioned on this slide. I've sort of talked a little bit about the reach already. It's just to say the ages of children and people tend to range from sort of 5 up to sort of 25, which is our old sort of adult care leavers as well. And I've mentioned already some of the children and people that we reach out to. And the other bit's just talking around partners, so different range of partners already. You can see a wide range of partners there. Recently through our summer activity programs, we've seen that actually involving our local communities, investing in local communities to help them deliver programs in their local communities gives real benefit to children and young people that live in those areas and those communities. So we've developed some really strong links with some really good partners, community interest companies and charities, some leaders in communities where they're doing really good work and projects. So for us, it's really helpful to have this program where we can work with some of those people to help deliver. So to maximise the reach of the funding that we have and to really help the community to deliver some of those programs out there themselves. So this is just a trust program that trust employees will deliver. We'll be looking to the key partners, the key communities to help shape this, steer this and deliver things in this as well. And so at this point, I'll hand over to Adam.
Cheers, Jake. One thing to add, the project itself is one arm of it through the Commonwealth Sports Federation. As Jake's mentioned there's obviously other things that go along with it in terms of volunteering and tickets and, again, experiences. And what I'm trying to do as my role is to try and implement the Commonwealth Games as a vehicle into our projects and programmes. So as long as there's an essence in that Commonwealth Games and making sure our young people understand, I think one of the questions posed over is like, how can our young people engage? And to be honest, before all the buzz came around, there's quite a lot of young people who didn't understand the Commonwealth Games or didn't understand about it. So it's trying to implement that and kind of increase knowledge and understand what's coming through that. So just a little bit about obviously the project timeline and overview. So the kind of bid itself came about in September last year. We were successful with that bid, which was great, and we started implementing our sort of consultation work there. We've been working quite close with our legacy team. Jake sits on the Birmingham City Council Commonwealth Games Legacy Committee as well. So that's brilliant to have that implementation there. A lot of consultation with the West Midlands Combined Authority. So it started around the volunteering offer and then getting a kind of realisation of what barriers might be there, travel, kind of funding to get around, and it's great to hear that travel would be kind of utilised for free travel for people, volunteering, free food, obviously local different areas, so that was great to hear. So, and it was really nice that they took it on board, and they started to implement it straight away. Again, we've had multiple different participation events. As I said earlier, we have different participation groups and forums, but what we want to try and do is implement that Commonwealth Games feeling into it, so that people understand that it's coming, it's going to be in their local area. Again, we do that from our local community hubs, one of them being the Lighthouse in Aston, again down the road from Alexander Stadium. And again, we've done some participation events there, and the Commonwealth Games volunteering team came along, did some one-to-ones with our young people in that care, which was brilliant. Again, I won't go through all the little things there, but it's a little bit of an overview in that sense there. So in terms of kind of key achievements so far, we, again, speaking to the volunteering team, that was a big push early in the year for us, trying to get our care leaders interested. The way we did that, as I said, we've done a couple of consultation events, 4 consultation events with partners there. So we have the volunteering team there, Sport for Life there, the Combined Authority, and kind of it's a bit of a type of them, it's a standout project going forward with National Lottery partners working with our young people to help them through the volunteering phases, but also people who are keen in volunteering and aspects of employment to work through going forward there. So overall, we had around 27 care leavers apply. Again, we're working through all of them. My hope is all of them get an interview and get a role. I believe half of them at the minute have been offered, so I'm going to go back and push that. So if there's any support about making sure they all get an interview, I'm really grateful for that. At least 10 are unaccompanied asylum seeking children, and I must give credit to the organising committee and the volunteering team. They gave an extension for us because some of our young people wait for ID cards and citizen cards, so that was brilliant for them to wait so we could actually have time to get them in. And I know our personal advisors and our team managers were really grateful for that. So in terms of that, because that was a little bit of a barrier starting off with, was the identification, but we overcame that and we worked that through. As part of also the volunteering aspect, the children's have got a unique code, so it can be identifying people who went through, so that again, people, hiring managers, thousands and thousands of people get through and wanting to volunteer, they can see this code and understand that it's Birmingham Children's Trust children there going through there. We have our participation groups, so we have our Children in Care Council, our Care Leaders Forum, our Young Parents Project, our Roaring Lions, which is our forum for young people with disabilities, and also our kind of unaccompanied asylum seeking group as well. So they're real ambassadors of the city. So again, they came together and tried out different Commonwealth sports. They had chances to go and talk about volunteering aspects and things through that. One thing to mention as a key achievement, which is thankful for the City Council but and also the organising committee, the Children's Trust received 5,000 tickets for our groups and our young people, which is fantastic. Really positive experience for us. Our team and the corporate parent team are kind of currently working out how to kind of distribute them tickets and make sure it's make sure different groups are aware how to apply, how to get them as well. If we can again move to the next slide, that'd be great. A little bit going back to the picture at the front. This was through the Holiday Activity and Food Fund. So our project with the Commonwealth Sports Federation, the grant agreement, actually came in a couple of weeks ago, which is a real positive step to do that. So in kind of way for the funding, we applied for our Holiday Activity and Food Fund, and we did this with Team What's Karting in Big Buff. And as Jake said, it wasn't just karting and laser tag, it was different community groups coming together. There was drama there was dancing, there was hockey, there was football, and other things and party celebrations there. And it was quite nice that even though it was 5 to 16, it was a real family feel. So people came together and brought the whole family, and some of the positivity was great, which I'll go on to on the couple of slides down. Miles Heston at the bottom there, he's kind of a GB basketball coach, and it was great to see him. And we also had one of the bronze medalists of the hockey team there as well, giving some advice and kind of inspiration and getting them through there. And there's a little quote from him, which was brilliant. And I think for us, what was great to see that inspiration and see where they come from, how they can achieve, and it's just this sort of excitement coming together. As part of that program, some of the stats that kind of go through there, we had around 3,880 places offered to children, young people through this program. But also, as Jake said, these were targeted at children in care and families known to the trust, but it was also members from the public and surrounding areas, because we really believe in that preventative work as well. So we also had 2 days dedicated to our homes with young people with disabilities as well, so 100 places there. And the activities were tailored to more sensory music, ground floor activities, and things like that, which was brilliant. So overall, as I said, it was a whole family, so parents, carers, staff that attended, so around 2,500 people all kind of attended their groups. And it was quite good that parents and carers would bring a friend as well to be there and have a discussion there. So in kind of the total numbers undertaken through that fund was 4,923. Again, pushing that 5,000 kind of mark we've said, but we're still going to push on, and this is where the sort of ambassador status from our young people to kind of bring it back into their forums or their school setting or their homes, and so they get that exciting buzz from it. Thank you. So to kind of sum up everything in that event, we had an awards closing ceremony. So there's a few pictures when it comes on around. We were grateful to have the Commonwealth Games community roadshow there with us. It's quite nice to see actually. They kind of brought a van onto the karting track and opened it all up, and you've got wrestling mats and you've got squash kind of court there, and it was fascinating how so much can get out of a little van. And it was also quite nice. Our chief exec actually had a squash game with one of our young people, so that was good to see. You probably won't thank me for that, but so it was just basically a celebration. Young people for the 4 weeks. We had local community organisations perform, sing. We had gymnastics. We had a kind of a circus act, and again, as Jack said, these are local community groups, and it's really that legacy of working with these going forward. Some of our young people seeing that and being part of it and wanting to take part and go there. We also had the mascot there. It was brilliant to see. Again, that kind of brought it to life for our young people to say, this is coming, this is it. And I must admit, the roadshow was really brilliant. The staff who came and things like that were brilliant. Councillor Sharon Thompson came down and said a few words, which was great as well. On the next slide, there's some feedback there through kind of some parents, carers, and some young people. We also have obviously lots of different pictures, so if going forward, if anyone wants to see some pictures, we can showcase that. So that's completely fine because we're currently doing that impact report there. So in terms of kind of our future plans, really, we're liaising with our National Lottery partners on the Stand Up project to support care leavers into their next steps, education, employment, and volunteering. We're working with Birmingham City Football Club and also Edgbaston to do some work around the October half term, with Edgbaston being a focus on us and young people with disabilities as well. Birmingham City Football Club again is going to be more of like a sports cultural hub with different things going on, similar to the summer because we're using that as a framework as well, where other organisations can come use that as a base, but also get local people there. Birmingham City Football Club keen on working with local schools through that as well, so we're in conversation with that, so that's looking really positive there. Again, looking with our colleagues in the virtual school, we're planning the mini games next year, doing it kind of with our different virtual schools there, working with partners again. As Jake said, it's not just sport, physical activity. We work with services for education on our music lessons. So currently, young people get music lessons in school. We're hoping to kind of again implement the Commonwealth Games feeling into that and do a specific project, making sure it's music from different Commonwealth countries, understand. So that's a real way of kind of identifying the interest in keeping that buzz going, which will help with that legacy on. We're working with some of our key partners from our charitable arm, which I'll speak about a little bit going forward. So the main thing is we've got all of these young people who applied for volunteering, but there's a bit of a gap before they go and volunteer at the games. So it's how can they get involved in volunteering at community groups? How can they kind of develop themselves with qualifications or training? So this is where we're working with obviously the Stand Up project and the West Midlands Combined Authority and supporting through that, but also some of our key partners around the city, like our training department, who do a lot of work on presenting skills, reflection work, and doing things like that. I don't know if you want to talk, Jack, a bit about the Chances programme. So we're currently running a second programme called the Chances programme with Aston Villa Football Club. And again, that's what we want to do is implement the Commonwealth Games feeling into that project as well. Don't know if you want to touch a little bit on the Chances.
Yeah, it's just to say that one of probably about 14 local authorities to receive funding in terms of the Chances funding. So it's really aimed at children who might potentially be excluded or actually be excluded from school, and also children and young people that might fall into the sort of criminal justice system as well. So it's really aimed at like those cohorts of children and young people. And I think it's about how we've got existing programs running already in the city, but how do we sort of complement and shape that? Because some of the work that they're doing is sport related and music and arts as well. So it's just looking at how we sort of dovetail some of that. It's just trying to get maximum sort of reach with the Commonwealth into some existing projects and programs as well, because there are opportunities that will come off the back of the Commonwealth Games. So we're keen that people that might be accessing another program still hear about this one and might be happening to as well. And just really to pick up on a couple of things that Alex has said. I mean, in terms of the volunteer role, I think Alex has worked really hard. He's done a tremendous job with West Midlands Combined Authority. Our care leaders were really prominent in terms of saying what the barriers were for them. And I'm really pleased that the OC actually listened, and the whole volunteer offer for anyone volunteering now is really supportive to anyone who might be struggling in terms of financial things, transport. To have like free transport, to have free food, refreshments. They've even said there's some sort of green space room where it might be a bit much for some people in terms of their own particular needs. There's some space for them to go, and there's some of our young people chaperones if that was the case as well. So I think, there's been a lot of work done in that space. I'm really pleased. We just need to make sure that we're then able to convert those children who apply, I say children, young adults, who apply into actual successful applicants. And then the other thing I just wanted to say was about the feedback from the summer programs. I think putting on activities that anyone could access and those being free activities, I think had a really massive impact on children and families across the city. Feedback was that quite a lot of families can't afford to take 2, 3, 4 children to activities, and to do something like go-kart and laser tag was just like brilliant for these families. Now, some of them said they haven't done anything for like 3 or 4 years. They haven't been out and done stuff for the family. Obviously, we've had COVID in the midst of the last, 18 months to 2 years, obviously. So I think families, this is probably a really good time for our families. But I think people want to get out. People want to be able to socialise. They want to be able to mix with other children and families. And we've had children sort of indoors a lot of the time, or kept at home, or kept in school, but not actually able to sort of go out into the community. So I know we have to be conscious of sort of people's safety as well in terms of the virus, but I just think it's really important that actually this has probably come at a real crucial time. I think sitting with our children and our families needed. So we're just really keen that we build on this success over the summer, and we're successful right through to September and post.
Okay, yeah, going back, because obviously we're quite fortunate also to have a colleague of ours working on the Future Park Accelerator in relation to the City Council there. So going forward, we're going to look at the kind of local parts that our colleague works on in children's. I think around at the minute, Highgate is a big one, Borsley is quite a big one. So again, we're going to be working with them on how can we put events on in different areas through that programme, as well as the Commonwealth Games Feeling programme as well. Because I understand there's quite I think Borsley had a community event over the week, which was fantastic as well. As I mentioned, the Trust are going through the process of getting a charitable arm, and that charity is going to be made up of trustees, which is partners from around the city that we work with. It's also co-chaired by one of our care experienced adults as well. And I think part of one of the priorities going forward is that Commonwealth Games and wellbeing and that sustainability. So part of that, we're running starting a mentoring scheme where partners can sign up, and they're going through the same sort of journey as a social worker would, with expression of interest, application, DBS, phone call, interview, things like that. So it feels like a proper role, which it is. So again, that's a two-way relationship with a young person, help them through different times, whether it be jobs, employment, education, but also the Commonwealth Games going forward as well. We're also in talks with some of these partners about becoming a Commonwealth Games partner ambassador. The main reason for that, we've got obviously our young adults who have applied for volunteering, but also we've got some partners who might be at the other end of the spectrum in terms of age, but they're still applying for the volunteering. So how about can we go through the journey together, that they're going through this, or have you done this, have you got your interview, how are you doing this? So we spoke to a gentleman yesterday from a partner, he's really keen on doing that, which is really good, because you can share life experiences, they can go forward, and he's quite fortunate to lead an individual, but his organisation is keen to help as well for the training and development for them young people. And we're also looking at kind of with some of our partners, our youth club for our young people with disabilities, so weekly youth club sessions around the Commonwealth Games to try different things out. So a little bit at the end around legacy. So what we think the Commonwealth Games can bring for our young people. So already the Jobs and Skills Academy have been sending us opportunities to kind of share with our young people. Quite great to say that a couple of our young people have received jobs from that, which is fantastic. So again, straight away, the legacy for them is continued employment and continuous sustainable employment after that. As Jake said, we've worked with a lot of different community groups and also young people getting experience for their local area and happy to be in their local area because it may be new to them, especially or kind of new to the city as well. A lot of our unaccompanied asylum-seeking children can be new to the city, so this buzz at Commonwealth Games can be a vehicle for them to kind of be happy to be in Birmingham, which is great, happy and safe to be in Birmingham. Obviously, the wellbeing factor and sustainability with local sports clubs, and that's kind of a byproduct of the programme is getting young people interested in different sports, different things, music, cultural, drama, and then also continue that relationship with these community groups beyond the games. And also the relationships with the community, and that's with Birmingham Children's Trust and our young people as well. Understanding what might be around the corner to them, and also BCT working with partners going forward to continue to support our young people. And a little one again, just forming relationships with people. Westminster Combined Authorities are kind of a new, we've been working with them previously, but because of this volunteering aspect and the jobs and skills, we've had a closer knit. We're working closely with the Care Leaders Covenant as well. So that's going to be our real sort of legacy, is working with these organisations and even people like subcontractors who might be there to say, well, actually, can we work with you to give a young person an apprenticeship or work placement or linking with that? So yeah, that's it from me. I apologise if I've just waffled until time, but yeah.
Not at all. Thank you so much for
No,
your
thank you very
presentation.
much.
Before I make any comments, I'm just going to check to see if we've got any indication from members. Right.
Firstly, thank you for the presentation. See if I can actually read my scribbled writing. You did a lot of activities during the summer in August with the children. It sounded absolutely brilliant. And I know you've got that you plan to do more activities in January to April. And in July, August,
Sorry, just a second.
I was just saying it's just dropped. And she's just taking,
Is it being fixed?
she's just taking pause for a second.
Is that okay? We'll just pause for a minute whilst fixing the internet.
Yeah, I said that. I was just put, Kerry, my internet's just dropped. Can please pause for a few minutes?
She's back on.
We're back on.
Just see the screen.
I'll introduce you again in a second. Once we have confirmation.
Yes, back on.
Okay. We'll move on to questions from members. Apologies if anybody's watching and something strange just happened on your screens, but we're back on live now. I'll hand over to Councillor Storer to ask any questions or comments to both Jake or Alex.
okay, again, thanks for the presentation. You look like you've done some absolutely fantastic work over the summer night with the children. But honestly, so you're planning to do some more in January to April. It says communication, planning and activities. Also July and August, you've got Commonwealth Games related activities. Could you explain what type of activities you got planned? Also, you said some of the local sporting facilities like Birmingham City have got involved. And I believe you said Villa have got involved as well.
Yeah, so
Have you tried to get any other sporting venues? Like we've got rugby clubs, and especially at the moment, tennis. I should imagine there's a lot of children out there aspiring to be the next one. As any tennis clubs, have you approached any tennis clubs?
not at the minute, but again, we're open to that. So we work in previously with Moseley Rugby Club as well. Again, we'd be keen to, keen to kind of work with them, but it's a very valid point. In terms of the kind of planning activities, nothing set in stone. The summer kind of really opened our eyes in how it was organised, that we want to do something similar. But we're very keen on not keeping it in the same venue. We want to move at different areas of the city as well. Yeah, so that's what we're planning, that sort of feel of having a hub where different organisations can come and take part, and young people can come and experience it as well. Is there anything
I was just going to say, to pick on some of the points we're making, questions you asked, part of what we'll be doing is sort of community games type days. So those will be like taster events. So we'll get like your local tennis club, your local hockey or martial arts or whatever it might be. So actually young people in a day, in half a day, can have a taste of different events and just get a sense of what that's like. So we're keen to sort of branch out across the city in terms of those different niche sports. They don't always have to be Commonwealth Games related. I think that's the thing we're really keen to do. Yes, we've got the Commonwealth Games, but for us it's a vehicle to be able to introduce children and people into sport, recreation, other activities in their local community. So that's the ambition that we've got. So it should reach quite wide across the different sport genre types of sports that we have, but also, you know, not just sport related as well. We want to make sure that, like I said before, some children and people just don't want to engage in sport. We want to make sure that have other interests that they can help us with. We're planning events. They might want to be behind the scenes doing some of those events. They might want to help in other ways as well.
Thank you. I'm just going to pause for a moment again because I've just been notified that we may still have a little bit of an issue with the internet. So I don't know how much of what we're saying is going out, but I don't want to interrupt your answer because one, we're listening to your answer, and two, we're making note of what you're saying anyway. So it's just a case that if anybody is watching out there, I don't want a lot of what your answers are to be missed. So we'll just pause for a couple of minutes. We can just have informal chit chat. As far as I'm aware, none of this is being streamed at the moment. From about a moment ago, so we'll just pause. I don't want to ask my questions and then nobody hears it apart from just us in the room.
I think it's quite a useful point because actually us coming here is a way of just reaching out to yourselves, and so there might be things that you want to help shape this program through. There might be sports, there might be areas of the city, there might be people, contacts that you think would be really useful for us to link in. We come with an open mind, really, sort of use your expertise, your experience, your contacts in your communities to be able to, like you might say, actually, we're crying out for this particular thing in this area. You know, families, children, they want some, I don't know, they'd love a fun day where they've got sports and activities and, you know, target certain areas to do that. So I think that's the point. It's not sort of set in stone.
That's good. I've got lots to say, but I want to say it when we're on. The reason I'm sat here quietly is just because I've got lots of positive things to say, but I feel like it needs to be heard out there because otherwise you guys are just going to hear it and then you'll have to go back and say, oh, I promise the chair did say X, Y, Z. I'm just going to hold on for a moment.
Can I ask one?
Yeah, you can, if you're okay to do it.
I'd like to do it off just a wild thought. Has anybody ever considered, like, we've got Bedford area, so we've got some big names in our local area. Has anybody ever tried to get them to go around some of the homes, just to like talk to the kids and inspire them?
Alex, I think something that we're keen to do with this project and program is linking with sport stars, or perhaps, you know, those people that might be like a role model or might have some influence as well. So we've started that process with some of the activities over the summer. I'm not sure about an approach to virtual areas yet, but that's definitely something we can look at.
No, but I believe obviously the organising committee of the Commonwealth have their own alumni as well, of athletes that get involved in different projects. So that's something we definitely want to get involved in as well. As I said, during the summer we did have GB athletes, but for us it's local stars. We did try.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, if you're always having the big stars coming, you're having local people.
I think it's a great idea. I think that's something we definitely will want to build upon. It's useful to have that feedback because we'll take that back and we'll approach virtual habits and see whether it's something we can do with them specifically when we do our programs. So, and they might want to help, they might want to volunteer, they might want to run some programs themselves.
Worth saying as well, we had some of the hometown heroes as well involved and things like that. So we had a gentleman called Jeevan Chagger, who runs a local hockey club. He's one of the hometown heroes who's come support and be part of that. So we're really keen on identifying those hometown heroes as well and getting their organisations involved and doing that. But the point of virtual areas was a good one, really good for Charlie.
Okay, I have a good announcement. So we're not, from now onwards, it's not going live, but it is still being recorded. So as I said at the beginning of the meeting, that it will be uploaded onto the councils. We're using YouTube to have our recorded meetings accessible to watch back later. So it is being recorded, and it's just a case of if anybody's currently trying to watch it, they're not able to, but as soon as it's uploaded, it will be there. So this is really happening. It's not just us in this room.
Well, they can't vote us stuff.
Yeah, so Councillor Storer, did you get the response that you were looking for in terms of virtual barriers?
Yeah.
I'm just mindful. Okay, brilliant. Do I have any more? Yeah, Councillor Jan.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, speaking of tennis courts in Perry Bar, we've got tennis courts there. And I'm more than happy, I've got your email addresses, made a note of it, jake.shaw@birmingham.children's.
Yeah.
And I will be emailing, I've got some ideas, and something that where you can get involved. I'm also planning a community event in one of our derelict parks,
Okay.
where the families are hard to reach and it's quite a poor state.
Okay.
So I'll keep you updated. We're planning it for half-term holidays in October.
What I'd say is maybe there's some stuff that we can add value to.
Yes.
Then I think there's probably a conversation to be had, and I think this is a really good thing about coming today. We're able to like connect with people and find out other areas that we can work together and help. And I think Perry Bar is a really key area for us in terms of the Commonwealth Games, and particularly when we think about that sustainability, but accessing stuff that they might not access normally, in the sense that we might have to work that bit harder with certain communities, certain children and families. So we're also looking at the lighthouse as well, discussing that being almost a bit of a hub, because it's right down the road, it's where we're based, and we're working really closely with Judith, the centre manager there. So there might be some stuff that we can do around tennis. We might be able to connect some of our young people as well to stuff that's going on. So that would be a really good conversation.
Yeah, many years, well, not many years ago, about 4 years ago, we did a joint venture with JDO.
Okay.
We took some of the young people from Perry Bar and from the Lighthouse, and we did a trip together to, was it Blackpool, somewhere we went, yeah. So, and then the youth workers attended, the young people, we had about 50 young people from Lighthouse attend. We had like about 50 young people from residents from Perry Bar that attended as well. So it was a really good event and it worked extremely well. But then, as you know, with COVID and everything else, everything just stopped. But I will be emailing you in the next day or two.
No, that's good, because I think it's a real good vehicle for exactly what you just described, actually, is being able to bring people together and do stuff. And I know we talked around the area of Perry Bar, and actually, you know, it's sometimes quite difficult for families and communities who might be living with not much money, not much access to different resources, and when you're seeing all this sort of glitz and glamour, you sort of feel a bit of attachment from that. The whole basis of what we're trying to do here is that we're trying to get back to our program into some of those communities so they feel a part of something that actually feel that there's people that care about them, about what they're doing, and how we can help them. So it's going to be really good.
I just want to say thank you so much. I'm just glad I've had the opportunity.
And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. Obviously we invited you here today to tell us a bit more about the opportunity for children in care and care leavers. And I think that literally listening to your whole presentation from start to finish, it's really given me a sense of, okay, there is definitely positive stuff happening and the opportunities definitely are there for our children in care. And it's given me that sense of hope that, you know, you're doing the right thing, and it's very exciting to even hear about some of the opportunities that the young people have already had so far, especially the project and the programme that you've had over the holidays as well. A lot of my notes have been literally just saying, this is great, very good, the reach is great. So, you know, honestly, my feedback is so far that I'm really, really pleased that we've had you at committee, and I'm really pleased to have heard some of the projects. And I'm really keen for us to get involved in anything that you think that we can be involved in as corporate parents, as members of the committee, even if it's to inform us that we're doing this project. Do any of you want to come along and then, you know, even hear directly from the young people or be part of, you know, some of the activities and participate? More than happy for you to bombard us between now and, you know, games time to invite us to things, don't sort of hold back or at all and just think, you know, their diary is too busy. These are the things that we definitely will be more than willing to get involved in because, you know, we all play a role as corporate parents anyway, and it would be brilliant to be able to witness and see at first hand the positive work that you are doing. Some of the questions I did have, I'm going to sort of sift through them because some are questions, and like I said, some of them are just comments, just making notes about how this is wonderful and that is wonderful. Somewhere on your presentation, there was a reference to your own opening and closing ceremonies. Can you tell me a bit more about them? And is that, just so I get a bit of understanding, is it sort of your own opening to the game ceremony for those young people and a closing to the game ceremony for your own young people? Is that during games time, just before games time? And more importantly, can we or I be invited to any of those, please?
Yeah, no, it's a bad question. Obviously, yeah, more the merrier. We want to again community event that legacy arm. We want people to be involved. In terms of opening and closing ceremony, not set in stone as in dates or planning, but this is definitely going to happen. So we had a little bit of a celebration, awards ceremony during the summer where the Commonwealth Games, and it was just a celebration then. We are planning the open ceremony before the games to prepare people, to prepare our young people for the games as well. And also the closing ceremony will be more or less the end of October, September time, as more of a legacy reflection period. Say, well, look at all these community organisations that come through, how can you get involved? And again, as people said, it's different areas of the city that come and different organisations that could come there and say, well, we've got this offer for young people, how about you get involved? Or we've got this, or we've got this park, or we've got this tennis court, or we've got this, come and get involved. So that's how we see it can happen. And we're lucky enough and fortunate that it is going to be running till September, but we really want to go beyond that with our partner relationships that we have already and continue that sustainability. So before the games, obviously during the games, there's still going to be a lot of buzz around it and the people getting involved, and then also around the end, lots of August into the September mark as well. So we want a good weather, hopefully. So that's a bit around there.
Okay, and you answered the more important part at the beginning, so you can extend an invitation to us.
Of course, we want to showcase it, and also we want people to understand. In what I try and do anyway in the sort of day-to-day or when I work with organisations or partners around cities, I really want them to see where their support is going, but then vice versa, we want young people to understand who supported them or where they're from. So it's that sort of relationship-based sort of practice, which is what trust kind of wants to be and is. So yeah, most definitely. Thank you.
A couple of the other points I just wanted to make was I think it's brilliant that, you know, you've said that 27 care leavers have applied for the volunteering opportunity, and it was good to hear, obviously, that you said that the OC supported the children, well, the young people who come from asylum sort of seeker background and enabled them to be part of the process. It was good for us to be able to hear, you know, some of the support that OC are giving to our young people as well. Just another comment, I know that within the holiday activity you mentioned, all of that was really positive, but the focus on nutrition and health focus as well, that's great, that aside from the excitement and the buzz around the games, the physical activity side with sporting activities, but you're also ensuring that the nutrition and health and wellbeing aspects are a part of that process as well. So that's just a comment. Wider kind of question, you know, the list of things that you put under key achievements, like the sensory days, the food programme, and some of the holiday activities. It was just a question, you know, without the funding and the support that you received as from the games happening as maybe a catalyst, how many of those projects do you think would be possible or would be happening anyway if we didn't have the games, we didn't have that support and that catalyst and the springboard and the money and the funding, just in general, because you'd obviously already exist anyway, those young people would already exist anyway. I'm just wondering of how much of a difference it's made over this summer and obviously moving forward as well, just by having the game.
I think speaking to children and families and also speaking to some of the community providers, I think there's a real gap there still. You know, I think funding has made a massive difference. But some of the feedback I get from people that have been delivering those programs on the ground is that, well, where's the next part of funding come from? Because some people we've contacted in very last minute actually, so we were able to connect some of the sort of holidays and food program money into some of our community providers that we work really closely with. But what they were saying was like they need more sustainable funding. The work that they did was absolutely amazing in some really deprived areas of Birmingham, some children, people that I know would have unfortunately would have got into trouble during those weeks that they weren't engaged in those activities. There would have been a percentage that would have been, and that's just young people with nothing to do, no outlet and nowhere to go and not role models around them that can help shape that. So I think the money's been brilliant. And I think it's almost that challenge back on our providers. If they were in the room sat next to me now, they'd say, well, what happens next? You know, what happens next? Because the trust haven't always got funds in all of those areas. So it's looking at like, how do we as a city make sure that things like this, activities for children, for families in our city, how do we fund those? How do we make decisions around that? Because they make a massive difference actually to some of our more vulnerable cohorts of children. Families, and it can be the difference between families staying together and not staying together, between maybe a child coming together, not coming together, you know, between somebody getting into trouble with a gang or not getting into trouble with them. You know, so these things can, and it's very difficult with some of these programs because you can't necessarily evidence the impact of something that hasn't happened. I can't evidence that somebody didn't get in trouble because they didn't. Do you see what I mean? So it's that bit of some of this. It's quite hard. It's not tangible to be in there, but we know through speaking with children, people, families, and some of those community leaders and providers that actually this has made a massive difference.
Yeah, and I think we would have done some sort of due to our partner network, but with the funding and kind of the goodwill and this program actually being there, we were able to reach more groups and extend it. So community groups came as a whole, brought it over 3 days, so they use that as their sort of day as well, or few days, sorry. But we also worked with our groups in the trust further. So again, this was one program. Groups in the trust also did their own experiences and days out due to the funding, which again they probably wouldn't have done as a whole.
So we had like family support, residential service, we had our fostering service, we had our own participation team, and we had really important, I think, Empower Youth. So they work with children and people at risk of exploitation, whether that be criminal exploitation, sexual exploitation. So a lot of again, sort of related activity that we know impacts on children and families in the city. And the feedback from some of those children and families was amazing. Actually, events were put on and they were really well supported. They were delivered by people in the community, so with really good links. And you know, some of the relationships were formed really good. But a bit of feedback that we had an evaluation recently by the head of service from how we that some of the partners and some of the families and stuff involved. And what they were saying was that bit about sustainability, like what happens for October. We would potentially that happen because we've got December, but there's nothing in October. So what happens in October for our children? So you know, that's the feedback I'm getting. So you know, it's important that I share that. In terms of the different funding can make and being put into areas like this.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I think it's important, obviously, to one, find out how much of a difference it is making, and had you not had that, what the situation would have been, but also obviously be aware that there is unfortunately a cut-off with some of the projects that you are working on, and it's the unfortunate reality of it. So thank you for sharing that here. You know, we've noted that and can hear obviously the concerns that not just you, but the families and young people and children may have already raised with you already to say, well, what about, this is great now, but what we're doing next year. So thank you for that. The other couple of questions that I had was, on one of the slides you mentioned something called the West Midlands Virtual School. Don't know if that's just my naivety, but I don't know what that is or means. If you can maybe shed some light on that.
Of course. So again, this is planned discussion rather than kind of confirm everything. But so in Birmingham, each local authority have a virtual school. which is kind of that extra layer of support in education for our children in care. So again, part of that, the West Midlands have obviously got Birmingham, we've got Sandwell, we've got Dudley, Staffordshire, and a few others. So they kind of create a West Midlands consortium. And that link, obviously, we're working with some young people, but we have a link with a partner organisation who works with their charity as well, the West Midlands charity there. And we work closely with that partner, and we're kind of in planning stages of doing an event together as part of, as we said, around using the Commonwealth Games funding to kind of showcase the Commonwealth Games and put on a little bit of our sports day taste today, as you said, trying different sports, getting involved. But the good thing about that is different local authorities coming together to do that. So that's a little bit about what it is there. So because obviously the West Midlands, different locals make that consortium as well, they've got that charitable arm to work with us together. And again, that's more about extending what's on offer, similar to there might be something going on, but how can we help and support to maybe extend it or add value to it in some cases, to support different young people who are known to the trust for different children's services around.
So we have our own joint teacher. It is a real person. That sounds like it's some computer generated person, isn't it? But there is a real person. And she's very active, and she works for Birmingham City Council, so she's part of the education and skills agenda, but we work really closely with the trust, with the virtual head. So actually she's got a team of people around her. So just to ensure that actually we know there's a gap between children in care and their peers in terms of outcomes. We've got 5 A to C's, GCSE, we know there's a, it's not but you know, there's that, there's a real gap between what children can attain and what the average peer is. So it's just the virtual school is a really useful platform to sort of help readdress that imbalance.
Thank you. I did say the previous agenda item that Councillor Wells not able to attend, and he really definitely would have liked to have been here to listen to your presentation. I can assure you of that. So I've got a couple of questions that he sent in for yourselves as well. Again, some of them I've already picked up, but I'm going to read them out anyway, and then I'll sort of send them to you, and you can see whichever ones to respond to. But if not, I might repeat them if there's anything missed out. So I'm now Councillor Straker Wells. It's a once in a lifetime event that we want everyone to enjoy. I gather that tickets will be available for our children in care. How clear are children about the nature of the creative and sporting events? How can the games be used as a springboard for motivating children? Can the creative arts events be a factor in promoting children's well-being and health? In what other ways can we make the games a special experience for children in care? And finally, as corporate parents, what can we do to develop children's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual maturity?
I'm hoping some of our presentation today sort of covered some of that ground actually. I think, you know, for us, this whole programme is the premises on actually, we know that small things can make a big difference to our children and young people. So like a young person's mental health, their physical health, their aspirations can be shaped and moulded through some of the programmes that activities that we're planning and that we're already doing. So I'm hoping
Straker
Wells was here, like he would have hopefully had some of that information to hand. But I probably would say there's things that he wants to come back to us on and speak specifically, and we can definitely sort of help find that.
So in terms of tickets, obviously that 1,000 tickets have come to a valid point, as I said earlier, that a lot of people didn't understand the Commonwealth Games and what countries there, and through the consultation events, yes, that's one different cohorts, obviously our participation groups and then also our care leaders. Part of that presentation or that discussion was about the Commonwealth and what was coming, how many people and the venues and things like that. But we've notified through this kind of the application process when doing this, there is going to be need of more consultation work as the games are coming up. So part of that will be implemented it into our corporate parenting board or implemented it into our participation groups. We had an agenda on our charitable trustee board the other night, which was around Commonwealth Games. So things like that is what we're probably doing in terms of our own communication tools and keep spreading the message and keep understanding there. Again, there was one about the creative arts, was there?
Yeah, can creative arts events be a factor in promoting children's well-being and health? And then, in what other ways can we make the games a special experience for children in care? And as corporate parents, what can we do to develop children's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual maturity? So obviously we all as councillors, as elected members, are corporate parents. So I think that's more, so in your opinion, what do you think that we can do to try and additionally aside from, just to support some of the work that you've already outlined in your presentation, how we can maybe play a greater role in during games process, running up to the games, and then obviously as a legacy aspect as well, how we can continue to have that relationship?
I think it's the start of a conversation. I think that needs to keep being had in a sense and being refreshed. And I think we're really keen over the next 12 months that we really reach out to councillors and give them real insight into what it means to be a child in care and also what it is to be a corporate parent and what that means. I think quite a lot of people talk about it, but it is just the word corporate parent doesn't really sound great. It doesn't really say what it is. Corporate sounds a bit like, it doesn't really sound friendly or loving or caring. And in essence, that's what a good parent should be, isn't it? And that's what we should be as corporate parents. So really, it's just making sure that we use your power, your influence, your contacts to be able to improve the lives of our children in care leaders. So sometimes it might be advocating for our children in care leaders. So it might be through jobs, through opportunities, through housing. All these sorts of things have a big impact on our children and young people, and we know that these are portfolio needs for lots of our councillors as well. So we're involved in this in the community. So really, it's keen that our children care leaders around the table for opportunities. There's been a lot of discussion around whether there's certain posts we can do things, whether we can have specific care leader opportunities, whether it be apprenticeships or jobs. And so there's lots of work that we're keen to sort of push and develop in this sense.
Yeah, and I think it's just obviously starting this conversation as well about links with ideas around virtual harriers or the things going on in Perry Bar, and I think in coming to events as well. I think that always starts that process and gets people to show face and have discussions with young people and come into our forums and things like that. So any sort of kind of ward or area that things are going on, or you may feel will be a massive benefit for families, young people, because our young people are all around the city. Care leavers live independently as well, so that understand their local area, what's going on. Again, more than happy, that's the link there as well. As I said, we're quite close with the Future Park and Celebrate and local green spaces and parks, but if there's a derelict party, the phrase there is we're more than happy to kind of have a discussion and be part of it. And as Jake said, if people are in your wards or businesses or organisations who are good people and like-minded people that might have could do some sessions with people or could offer a part-time job or give them some employability skills and things like that, I'm more than happy to kind of have a discussion there, because again it's that legacy piece and that sustainability there, and obviously organisations might have that social responsibility, or maybe some contractors that might come your way, or businesses that come through the chartered council that may have that social responsibility to do that. Some organisations, as Jake said, ring-fence guaranteed interviews from our young people, because an interview is a massive experience and can help that young person the next stage and give them, because it's quite a nerve-wracking thing. If you've never had an interview before and you're going through the application, as Jake said, sometimes our young people, their peers, it's not matched up, so they can get to the bottom of the pile with applications, but when you sit in front of them and you hear how inspirational they are, they blow people away. So that's little things that could be done quite quickly, short term. So things like that, venues, parks, anything around that would be fantastic.
Probably council contracts as well. We've got that buying power, the city council within that, the social value to any kind of contract. So it's really thinking, how do we help shape that, refine that, and how do we help evidence the impact that it's had as well? Could we look back over the last 12 months and say how many children care or care leaders had opportunities through some of that? I'm sure we record that in the So it's maybe stuff like that would really start to evidence some of the impact of social value, whether it's targeted in the right places and whether it's reaching.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. Again, I just want to reiterate, I think it's brilliant, all the hard work you are doing, and I genuinely feel like our children in care and our young care leavers are sort of in the right hands when it comes to the programs that you're organising for them. So thank you for all the hard work that you have been doing. Just another sort of final sort of comment. I know that you mentioned something around the mentoring program, and it's being developed and set up, and it will be a proper process. If the structure allows it, if we can have some more information as and when it's ready, I'd like to apply. If that was something that, depending on the structure and stuff, if it's something that elected members can be involved in, I think it's another way of us being able to do our bit and try and support either yourselves, the Children's Trust, or whoever is involved in setting up the mentoring programs. And equally, we'll definitely like this to be the beginning of a conversation in terms of how we can use our insights in our sort of local wards and other sort of assets and things in our communities to try and work together and just get the best benefit for our sort of most vulnerable families that we've got in the city. So again, thank you for your presentation. Thank you for answering all of the questions, and just thank you for attending. There's not any other comments from members. So,
would you want to add on that mentoring side? Sorry, just so yeah. So where we are in the mentoring stage, we've got our pilot scheme in the process of matching it with the young person. So what I'll do is I'll go to our colleague who's leading, send some details if you're interested about the next cohort coming through. But on that, there is opportunity to volunteer to run sessions for young people. I know Councillor Thompson did one with our apprentices recently. So if you've got sort of a skill set or an interest, then we can try and match with different people. Could be a really good thing there. That could be quite nice as well.
Yes, please do send that over. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go back to the agenda, and the next item on the agenda is just the work programme discussion for members. Just to make you aware, we've got the education. We have the Education and Skills Director due to attend at our October meeting, and also Inclusive Growth Directorate and the Finance and Governance Directorate. We're just waiting for confirmation on some of them, but we do have things in the work programme for the next meeting. That's just a note, unless anyone's got any questions on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but the next meeting falls on the conference. So the conference.
Okay, on the 6th of October. So you have to.
I'll be at the conference. I'm not sure about going to the conference, but I'm at the conference.
Okay. So we can have a conversation outside of the meeting. We can exchange emails to see how many people, if it impacts both of you, if it means you have to either send apologies or to see if it's doable for us to move things around. Okay. We'll have a look to see what we can do to work through that.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me know. And then the item 10 is just the dates of the next meetings. That's just a note for members. Item 11, any requests for call-in? Any other urgent business? No, thank you. And just finally, the authority to act, Chair. Agreed?
Yeah.
Thank you. I need that bit. Thank you so much. Thank you. Guessing it's not recording or somebody's.